Everybody is sad when their side loses an election. But the day after, we have to remember that we're actually all on one team. This is an intramural scrimmage. We're not Democrats first. We're not Republicans first. We are Americans first. We're patriots first.
President Obama and the Rose Garden are talking about moving forward the transition of power to now President-elect Donald J. Trump. One image today seemed to capture what many Democrats were feeling. This is the White House staff looking on at the president at the Rose Garden, and there you have it. Let's bring in our panel for the second hour. Steve Hayes, senior writer for the Weekly Standard. Katie Pavlich, news editor at townhall.com. And David Cantony, senior politics writer for U.S. News and World Report. Okay, David, we haven't talked to you about the reaction, the fallout, how it happened, why it happened.
I think that we're still going to try to figure out why this happened. I stood in the ballroom last night with the Trump supporters. I don't think the Trump campaign knew that a lot of these states, like a Pennsylvania and even a Wisconsin, were going to fall into their camps. But they have, and I think everyone has acted appropriately as this process has gone out. Trump with a very gracious speech, Hillary with a very gracious speech today, and I think Obama trying to form some unity today. I think the next step is going to be back on the president-elect, Donald Trump, and do we see the posture of him that he showed on election night, or should I say election morning? Does he continue that, or does he go back to sort of the red meat that he was famous for, the more combative, no-nonsense, in-your-face approach as he approaches to govern the country, lead the country?
We're told from the campaign that he worked personally on that speech and formed it to that tone. Katie, he meets with President Obama tomorrow at the White House, which in essence is going to be a really interesting image of two people who have been at it really since the White House Correspondents' Dinner a few years ago.
Well, I think it's a really special representation of the American project, right? Despite all the disagreements, here we are with a peaceful transfer of power. And I think after a long election, 500-plus days on the Republican side and the Democrat side, people went into the election saying they just wanted it to be over. They described their feelings as anxious and angry. And yet here we are today with the President of the United States, Hillary Clinton, Paul Ryan, and Donald Trump all coming together with gracious words to those who have disagreed with them and a look to the future. And I think that's really helpful and hopeful to everyone who's felt a lot of stress this year, both inside the Beltway and outside the Beltway as well.
Yeah, I talked about it as being catatonic at some of these spots inside D.C. I'm going to go back to the election and a sweet spot for you, Steve, Wisconsin. Hillary Clinton did not visit Wisconsin, not once, after the Democratic convention. She didn't go there.
Yeah. Republicans haven't won the presidential election in Wisconsin since 1984. Democrats thought they had it in the bag. It was part of this much-discussed blue wall. Polling showed it reasonably comfortable for her. Going even into this last week, there was a poll by the well-respected Marquette University law poll. I think the margin was 6 points for Hillary Clinton going into the last week. So I think they thought that it wasn't gettable. Remember, the Trump campaign had an event planned for Sunday in Wisconsin, canceled that plan and moved that event to Minnesota. Now, depending on who you talk to, that was either an indication that they didn't think they were going to get Wisconsin, or it was because that event was planned during a Packer game, which, as you know, you can't plan an event. You can't plan an event during a Packer game.
There's an organization, obviously. Scott Walker, the governor. Ron Johnson was running a Senate race. Reince Priebus is from Wisconsin. He was throwing money in there. That helped the Trump.
It did, and if you look at the numbers carefully, actually, Trump's vote count actually went down from past Republican presidential elections. Hillary Clinton just had the bottom in Wisconsin in particular.
Okay, here's Donald Trump on Hillary Clinton in the morning.
Hillary has worked very long and very hard over a long period of time, and we owe her a major debt of gratitude for her service to our country. Now it's time for America to bind the wounds of division. I say it is time for us to come together as one united people.
How does he do that, Dave?
I think he does it by reaching out to some of the people that he has defeated. And he said also in last night's speech that he wanted advice. He wanted to bring together some of the brains and some of the muscle of that big primary field that he defeated. What an overture would it be if he reached out to Jeb Bush and said, what should we do on education? I know that's a passion of yours. Maybe go to Marco Rubio and talk to him about immigration. I think those gestures, especially in the beginnings, as he tries to put his administration together, would go a long way. I also think it would be fascinating if he reached out to some Democrats. You know, Hillary Clinton has obviously offered her counsel. I don't know if she would be the first one he'd go to, but is there any Democrats that Donald Trump would even place in his administration, or is he going to keep his core? Rudy Giuliani, Chris Christie, Jeff Sessions, is he going to stick with the people that stuck with him, or is he going to be willing to branch out and show a little breadth across the aisle?
I think there'll be some surprises in here. If you know Donald Trump, I do think that loyalty is a big thing, obviously, for him. He did have a call with Chuck Schumer and also Nancy Pelosi, and they talked about infrastructure bills and maybe moving that forward.
Well, I think that we need to take a step back here on the coming together with Democrats argument. The Republicans now have a mandate. We have a Republican in the White House. We have a Republican-controlled Senate and Republican-controlled House. We've had divided government for a long time, and as Paul Ryan said today, they have a lot of good ideas on the table that they've been trying to get through that were obstructed by Harry Reid for years, that they now are going to be able to push through as a result of this election. And speaking of Democrats, I think that it's important, too, that we point out that Democrats are in for, I think, some battles of their own within their own party. There was a lot of talk this year in the GOP primary about the GOP civil war, what's going to happen, and yet it was Republicans who came out to vote for Donald Trump, and it was Democrats who stayed home for Hillary Clinton. And when you have Bernie Sanders and his campaign releasing today that they have nothing polite to say about the election results, I think that's an indication that this is far from over on that side. And I think that we should give the Republicans some time to have their mandate and to work through some of the things that they've been trying to get through without President Obama in the White House.
I would just say real quick, though, Democrats are still leading in the popular vote of this election. So more Democrats voted for Hillary Clinton.
To Arne Mishkin's point, you get Democrats in big numbers in California and Illinois, and you run up the vote total there.
But do they matter less than someone in Iowa or Wisconsin?
In the electoral college,
in terms of practical politics, they do.
I understand,
they do.
but I'm just saying the argument on the mandate. This is still a very divided country. This is a 200,000 vote divided. But this looks a lot like very close to 2000. This isn't a 315 to 330 electoral college sweep.
No,
so I
50-50
no, but in some respects, in some limited respects, it looks like 2008. Not in the vote count, not in the electoral college, but in terms of the message from the voters. And the message from the voters is change. We're sick of Washington. Sure. We're sick of the way it's done. We haven't had accountability forever. I think Trump has an opportunity.
With this vessel, even change with this candidate, it's about change.
No, look, if you go back and you look at the past decade, we've had 6 elections. 5 of them have been change elections. The only election that wasn't a change election was 2012. And this one is not just a change election, in my view. It's saying about those other elections, hey, we told you we want to change, and we really meant it. That's what this election is. And I think he'd be much better off leading with something like Obamacare than he would trying to do kumbaya with Democrats.